4 assessment tasks were chosen and mapped throughout this unit, as you can see in the table. The first was a quiz, which was conducted in week 2, and this allowed me to understand where the students are at and what definitions they understood moving forward into the unit. As well as seeing what they could understand, I was also able to see what they couldn't understand and then focus their learning towards that as the unit increased. The second was a poster, which allowed the students to be creative, and this is worth 15%. With the poster, this was done on weeks 2 to 5 and allowed the students to express their own learning. Assessment task 3 was conducted over the entirety of the unit and was a soft skills assessment based off their attitude, peer development, and teamwork. This was based on how well they all worked together and was critical for this unit, noting the sensitivity of some of the areas. The final assessment task was assessment task 4, and this was a capstone assessment worth 50%. The students worked in groups for this assessment task to work on our problem-based learning approach that we had been conducting throughout the whole of the unit, and this was worth 50%. The students were able to choose how they presented their work with this assessment task. Adjustments that were made for the students with special learning needs or disabilities. So in assessment 1, they were allowed to use text-to-speech software, and they were also allowed to use their computer to type the answers rather than write if they felt the need to, or they could just use the text-to-speech software and write on a piece of paper. All other assessment tasks, however, were not modified. This was due to them either being a group assessment, an attitudinal assessment, or development of a poster in which they didn't need to be adjusted. All students should have been able to manage all of the assessment tasks. However, if they did require any additional work, that was raised by me on a case-by-case basis, and in which case I could provide a scaffold to the assessment task if need be. Ensuring the assessments were valid, reliable, and fair gave me a lot of thought. So validity covered off on what do the students need to know. So with the assessment tasks, they were broken down into areas based on the learning outcomes of the unit and also the stuff from the Victorian curriculum. So this ensured that they were valid. I broke down what I needed the students to know, created an assessment task to ensure that my assessment measures were what I wanted them to know, looked at the learning outcomes, and then mapped backwards accordingly. Reliability was results focused and based off blind scoring. So clear guidelines that were provided to the students, and this was outlined in their rubrics as to what they needed to achieve. I also told the students to make sure they cover off on looking at their rubrics so they knew exactly where they were going to be assessed. When the assessment tasks were being marked, only the result is the focus rather than the assessment task itself, and I ensured that the assessment rubric was clear and well understood with no ambiguity, and if it's marked by another teacher, hopefully a similar grade would be presented. Finally, fairness. Each unit of work was assessed without seeing the name to ensure there was no bias or discriminatory factors involved. Students with disabilities were given every opportunity to succeed, and modified assessment tasks were produced where necessary. Assessment instructions were made clear and help was offered where needed, and scaffolding of assessment tasks was also offered if it was required. Constant and consistent feedback was given to all students throughout this unit of work, as it was a problem-based learning unit of work, which allowed all of the students an adequate opportunity to achieve the desired. Assessments were mapped in line with the unit learning outcomes against the Victorian curriculum. As the unit of work began, a spreadsheet was developed, and this allowed me to track each individual assessment task accordingly, with an overall grade given at the end and a link to their student folder with their attachments inside that. So each student has their own folder, and inside this is each student piece of work, as well as their assessment rubric and comments by me. This makes it easy for me to write reports once the unit of work is being completed, and gives me a well-rounded overall result and allows me to rank the students accordingly if required. NAPLAN data has also been included to allow me to look back on where some shortfalls or discrepancies might be, so I can work on their NAPLAN results accordingly with each assessment task to hopefully improve their literacy or numeracy where required. By keeping the data like this in a table with the links to the students' work, it's easy for me to present at parent-teacher interviews if parents require evidence to see how their child is going during class and take an interest in their learning.
What has my child been learning this semester?
So this semester in Year 8 Health and Physical Education, we've been conducting a unit called Rights, Resilience and Respectful Relationships. So this unit of work covers 9 content descriptors from the Victorian Education curriculum for the Year 7-8 band, as you can see on the screen just here. So this work aims to provide students with an overall understanding of their own and others' rights, what resilience is, how we can build on resilience, how we can communicate with one another and how we can build this communication, whether that be through verbal or through body actions. How can we maintain and develop healthy and positive relationships with each other, our parents and older people as well. Students conducted 4 assessment tasks throughout this unit of work, which vary from group assessment tasks, quizzes, and then there is also an assessment task where I look at how they have conducted themselves throughout this unit of work. So this unit of work was taught using a collaborative learning approach in groups like PBL learning, problem-based learning, to enhance student outcomes and develop their own relationships. Does that make sense? Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I do have one question. I'm wondering, how can I implement this healthy and positive relationships and everything you're learning in class into the home environment?
So that's a really great question. And as a teaching cohort, we always like to remind parents that what we talk about in the classroom is just the start of the conversation, and it's really important to finish this at home, noting the seriousness of this topic. So the ways that you can do this is by engaging in your child's learning and asking them leading questions in the home environment. So some questions that you're able to ask them are, what topics have you been covering in health and PE this semester so far? What is something that you have learned today? How does that impact you? What does this mean to you? Do you have any concerns with this topic? Or are there any other things that you need to ask me in a private manner that I can help you understand further? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think I'll start implementing that at home. Thank you.
Perfect.
How has my child progressed throughout this unit?
That's a really good question. So all children have progressed throughout this unit in this semester, and it's all been steady, but your child in particular has improved dramatically from their NAPLAN results. So at the beginning of the semester, I observed that they were struggling with their literacy and comprehension, and this was based purely on their NAPLAN results, which they conducted in May, and then we got the results at the start of term 3. So from these results, we were able to collaborate with the learning support officer, your child, and myself, and together we overcame these challenges by implementing strategies that have since improved their literacy and comprehension skills throughout the unit. These strategies include text-to-speech software, where they're able to use their laptop to help them understand and comprehend questions in quizzes and also in class on assessment task sheets. And also a graphic organizer has been organized and implemented in their writing to allow them to place their thoughts on the page and develop sentences constructively.
Okay, I guess I'm wondering, how can I make better strategies for them to be implementing this kind of stuff at home? How can I help them at home? Really?
That's really good, and I'm really glad that you want to help your child at home and develop their learning outside the classroom as well. So at home, it's really important that you help your child with their assessment task rather than doing it for them. It is within their area of learning and they are able to conduct the task themselves. Ways you can help them do their assessment task without doing it for them is to write a list of what needs to be achieved broadly, and then you can break this down into manageable tasks so they are able to see the tasks on a page and they don't have to remember lots and lots of information. You can also encourage audiobooks with them reading along at the same time, and also encourage reading for enjoyment, whether that be with yourself, with another parent at home, or with their siblings if they have them. As they are on their computer a lot at school, and a lot of the stuff we give is through the use of technology, it may be beneficial to limit the use of technology at home. However, you can also incorporate closed captions on the TV while they're watching TV or movies and while they're relaxing, as this can also help them as they can hear the words and it's also written on the screen with them as well. Overall, your child's super enthusiastic in class and always embraces their learning and works to their full potential, which is great to see on a daily basis. As the semester has gone on, I have seen dramatic improvement within your child's work, specifically in their literacy, and will continue to build on this in the future.
Does my child have a particular learning style or preference?
Your child is a visual learner, and there's 3 examples of this as how it has been displayed in the classroom. So the first one, they've provided creative and innovative thinking, often performing well in classroom tasks that involve visual and group-guided learning styles. The second one, they often struggle with written tasks, however they benefit from additional help and have performed well in more creative tasks or when group work has been assessed. They've been encouraged to use text-to-speech software when conducting assessment tasks such as quizzes, and this has improved their comprehension of the question. The third one, your child has displayed an excellent attitude throughout the unit, and teamwork has been exemplary and communication was very good with peers and with the teacher. Group work was conducted to a fantastic standard, and at the start of the unit, a template was given to your child to help them organise their thoughts, which has proven to be useful based on the overall grade for this unit of work.
Can you show me some examples of their work?
Sure, so there's 2 examples of their work, with the first being the quiz here. So as you can see in the quiz, they scored satisfactorily within this, but they still showed that they understood what we were conducting throughout the unit. After this, we implemented the text-to-speech software, which seemed to help them dramatically, as we can see on their next piece of work here. So on this next piece of work, we've got assessment task 3. As you can see, they performed excellently and good throughout this assessment task, which was conducted throughout the entirety of the unit. However, in their self-reflection, which required them to write how they thought they had been going throughout this unit, they achieved a satisfactory result, and as you can see, there's varying grammatical and spelling errors here, which we're going to continue to work on as the unit goes on.
So how are you tracking student achievement?
So all students have been tracked using an Excel spreadsheet, which you can see on the screen here, showing only your child's results. This allows me to see their overall NAPLAN results and then input their grade for each assessment task, which then displays an overall grade at the end. There is a link on the right hand side which links me to their student folders within a Google Drive, and then I keep all their assessment tasks in here, which allows me to go back and review prior to giving them a final grade. During class, formative observation assessments were undertaken and notes were taken on students for any exemplary or below average behaviour which was displayed. On conclusion of some lessons, exit cards were given. An example of this is on the right hand side of the screen up here. And this allowed me, from a formative perspective, to gauge where students were at in terms of their learning, what they identified as what they remembered, and what they didn't understand within the task. I used this information to make up their overall grade for assessment task 3.
How have you addressed their latest NAPLAN results?
So the literacy results from the NAPLAN data was assessed through cooperative learning style similar to problem-based learning. This learning style has been proven to enhance literacy among the students, and additionally, this learning style improves socialisation, motivation, and personal and self-development, which aligns with this unit of work assessment tasks. Student communication was enhanced throughout this unit of work, and there was an improvement in student D's literacy throughout this unit. Teamwork and comprehension was improved among the students in class, and there was a lot of assessment as learning approaches. Long-term memory was also developed through problem-based learning. Moreover, the cooperative learning approach can influence achievement goal theory, self-determination theory, and motivation when teaching physical education units, and there's lots of research on this as well. Implementing a cooperative learning style and approach to this topic aims to initiate class discussions amongst the group and create common learning goals with each other.